I remember the exact moment I started noticing something that seemed too small to matter. A slight swelling in my gums. It wasn't painful. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't interrupt my day. In fact, it was so subtle that most people would have ignored it without a second thought. And honestly, that's exactly what I did. At first, it felt like nothing more than a temporary irritation. Maybe something I ate, maybe I brushed too hard. The kind of excuse we give ourselves when we don't want to look deeper. But days passed, then weeks, and that quiet signal didn't disappear. It stayed. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, it began to evolve. The swelling became more frequent. Then came a slight sensitivity. Then, one morning, I noticed a faint trace of blood while brushing. Not enough to scare me, but enough to make me pause. So, I kept going. Because that's what most people do when the body whispers instead of screams. But here's what I didn't understand at the time. Swollen gums are not the problem. They are the warning. They are the body's way of signaling that something deeper is happening beneath the surface. Something biological. Something progressive. Something that, if ignored, doesn't stay small. When I finally decided to understand what was really going on, I realized that gum swelling is often a direct response to inflammation caused by bacterial buildup. Throughout the day, a thin, invisible film called dental plaque forms on our teeth. It's made up of bacteria that feed on food particles, especially sugars and refined carbohydrates. If this plaque isn't properly removed, it begins to irritate the gum tissue. The body reacts by sending inflammatory signals to fight the bacteria, and that's when the swelling begins. At this stage, the condition is known as gingivitis. And here's the critical part. Gingivitis is reversible. But only if you recognize it early and act. Because if you don't, it doesn't stay there. Over time, that same bacterial accumulation hardens into tartar, creating a rough surface where even more bacteria can attach. The inflammation deepens. The gums start to pull away from the teeth, forming pockets that trap even more harmful microorganisms. And this is where things begin to change in a way that's no longer easy to ignore. The condition progresses into periodontitis. At this point, the infection is no longer limited to the gums. It starts affecting the bone and connective tissue that hold your teeth in place. The support system weakens. Teeth may begin to feel loose. And eventually, they can be lost. All of this, starting from something as simple as a slightly swollen gum. But the physical consequences are only part of the story. There's also something deeper that many people don't talk about. The emotional impact. Because when your oral health begins to decline, it doesn't just affect your mouth. It affects how you show up in the world. Persistent bad breath, for example, is often directly linked to bacterial imbalance in the mouth. And if you've ever experienced that, you know how it changes your behavior. You speak less freely. You hold back your smile. You become more aware, more self-conscious, more distant. And without realizing it, something that started as a small physical symptom begins to reshape your confidence. So let me ask you something directly. Have you noticed any of these signs? Swollen gums, bleeding when brushing, persistent bad breath that doesn't go away no matter what you try? Because if you have, there is still time to understand what's happening and reverse the process before it reaches a more serious stage. In fact, we've placed a practical guide in the first link in the description for those who are dealing with swollen gums, tooth loss, or chronic bad breath and want to understand how to regain control of their oral health. Click and take a look. Because once you begin to understand the root cause, everything changes. What I discovered is that oral health is not just about cleaning your teeth, it's about maintaining balance. The mouth is a complex ecosystem, home to billions of bacteria. Some are beneficial, others are harmful, and your health depends on keeping that balance stable. When that balance is disrupted, harmful bacteria begin to dominate. They trigger inflammation, damage tissues, and create a cycle that feeds itself. Scientific studies have consistently shown that controlling this bacterial biofilm is the key to preventing and reversing early-stage gum disease. Proper brushing technique, daily flossing, and targeted care can significantly reduce inflammation and restore gum health. But here's something even more important. Consistency matters more than intensity. It's not about brushing harder. It's not about doing everything perfectly for one day. It's about creating daily habits that support your body's natural ability to heal and protect itself. And when you do that, the body responds. Inflammation begins to decrease. The gums regain their natural firmness. Bleeding stops. Breath improves. And slowly, the entire system starts to stabilize again. This is the moment where many people experience a shift in perspective. They realize that ignoring the early signs was a mistake, but not an irreversible one. Because the truth is, your body is always trying to recover. It just needs the right conditions. And if you feel like your situation has already progressed further, if your gums are frequently inflamed, if bleeding is constant, if bad breath persists despite your efforts, there are structured approaches that go deeper into restoring oral health safely and effectively. In fact, we've also left a complete method in the pinned comment for those who are already dealing with advanced gum issues and want a proven path to recovery. Take a moment to check it out. What stayed with me through this entire experience was the realization that taking care of your gums is not just about avoiding problems. It's about reclaiming control. It's about being able to smile without hesitation, to speak without doubt, to feel aligned with your own health again. Because in the end, the smallest signals often carry the biggest truths. And when you choose to listen, when you choose to act, you change the outcome completely. So now the question is, will you continue to ignore what your body is trying to tell you? Or will you take the step that most people postpone until it's too late? If this kind of content resonates with you and you want to continue learning how to protect your health through real, evidence-based understanding, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Because in the next videos, I'm going to show you other silent signals your body gives you. Signals that most people overlook, but that can completely transform your health once you learn how to recognize them.